Hello?
Yeah, it's 1033 West McCormick Street.
Okay, tell me exactly what happened.
They were arguing and I shot him in the head and he's not breathing anymore.
Okay, so what's going on right now? Are you there?
A chilling call on a cold winter night in Wichita, Kansas, sent emergency dispatchers into high gear. The police were quickly dispatched. Flashing red and blue lights tore through the night, surrounding a peaceful little house where the Finch family was preparing a late dinner. Little did they know that minutes later, fate would take an unexpected turn. Andrew Finch, 28, was a gentle family man with no criminal record or connections to any criminal activity. He was the type of person neighbors described as quiet, polite. Andrew was home that evening with his mother, sister, and young children. A seemingly normal night with no signs of any danger. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, Tyler Barris, a man familiar to law enforcement for his many fake calls, was on the phone, creating a dangerous scenario. The night's atmosphere suddenly shifted from calm to extreme tension, all because of a seemingly simple phone call. When the Finch door opened, the unexpected happened, and it would forever be remembered in the annals of American horror. On the afternoon of December 28, 2017, two gamers named Casey Viner and Shane Gaskell got into a heated argument during an online Call of Duty match. Viner accused Gaskell of causing damage in the game and asked the other for his real address to SWAT. That is, to call the police with fake information, a dangerous prank that is spreading among gamers. Shane Gaskell, instead of refusing, gave his family's old address in Wichita, Kansas, which is no longer where he lives. That is the home of Andrew Finch. Viner then contacted Tyler Barris, a man who had been arrested for making multiple false 911 calls. Barris immediately placed a call from California to the Wichita Emergency Center, creating a fictional story. He had just killed his father, was holding his family hostage, and was about to set fire to the house. The call was handled as a threat level 1 procedure, with the entire SWAT team deployed immediately. There was no time to fact check, so they relied entirely on the content of the report. The address Barris gave was where Finch and his family lived, completely unaware of the online dispute thousands of miles away. At about 6:20 p.m., armed police surrounded the house. Inside, the Finch family could only hear headlights shining through the windows and the loudspeaker calling for them to come forward. Andrew Finch, not understanding what was happening, walked out the front door with his hands empty. Within seconds, an officer believed he was moving his hands toward his waistband and opened fire. The bullet pierced Andrew's chest, killing him instantly. No one witnessed the entire crime except the Finch family and the officers at the scene. The officer's body camera recorded the entire incident from the police's perspective. However, the victim's family insists that Andrew did not make any threatening or defiant actions. There were no signs of the tragedy. The Finch family did not know Barris, did not play the game, and had no connection to the two people in the dispute. The incident was a complete and deadly mistake, stemming from a dangerous prank and a lack of verification by the authorities. It all happened in less than 20 minutes, from the time the 911 call was made to the moment the bullet took the life of an innocent person. Police then proceeded to verify the origin of the call, opening a shocking federal investigation. When the sirens blared outside the house on McCormick Street, the Finch family had no idea what was happening. The headlights from the police cars shone through the windows, causing the atmosphere in the house to become tense and chaotic. Andrew's mother screamed in panic, and the children quickly hid in a corner. No one in the house had ever experienced anything like this. Andrew Finch was the first to step out the front door to observe. He had nothing in his hands, and he had no idea that he was being suspected of being a dangerous kidnapper. Just seconds after opening the door, a gunshot rang out. Andrew collapsed on the steps. His first reaction was horror. His mother and sister immediately rushed to the door, screaming in despair, not believing their eyes when they saw Andrew lying motionless on the snow. Neighbors on both sides immediately turned on the lights and cracked open the windows to look outside. They saw dozens of armed officers, patrol cars, and a man who had just been shot in front of their house. Some called 911 on their phones to ask what was happening. Others tried to record video as evidence, but it was all too fast and chaotic. The police continued to order the remaining people in the house to come out empty-handed. The Finch family, still in shock, were slow to comply. They were handcuffed and told to sit down in the yard in the sub-zero cold. Andrew remained motionless, and no one was allowed to approach him while the police secured the scene. Only after the first responders confirmed there was no real threat inside did they allow paramedics to approach the victim. But by then it was too late. Andrew Finch was pronounced dead at the scene. No weapons were found on him or in the house. Silence fell over the neighborhood. Neighbors had no time to process what had happened, only to see the obvious aftermath. A young man had been shot to death in his own yard without any apparent warning. That same night, Wichita police held an emergency press conference, admitting that they had responded to a serious 911 call, but the result was a tragedy. All body cameras and call logs were collected for investigation. The initial state of the scene did not match the initial report from the caller. No gun, no hostages, no fire, just a bewildered family and a lost life. When the forensic team arrived at the scene after being cleared, they found a scene that was completely different from what the police had previously reported. There were no signs of violence, no debris, no signs of any confrontation or struggle inside or outside the house. The rooms inside were neat, with no signs of ransacking or occupation. This raised the first question about the authenticity of the initial call. Andrew Finch's body was found right on the front steps of the house. He was wearing winter clothes and had no weapons or objects in his hands. According to the forensic conclusion, Andrew was hit by a single gunshot wound to the chest, causing severe damage to the heart and lungs, leading to rapid death at the scene. The bullet was determined to have been fired by a police officer from a distance of 15 to 20 meters in a rapid response situation based on an emotional assessment. The evidence collected included body cam video from multiple officers, 911 call recordings, the location of the body, footprints in the snow, and the condition of the house. There was no blood inside, no one injured other than Andrew, and no signs of assault or resistance. The first and most important unusual detail was the victim was not a suspect, and the house was not the scene of a dangerous situation, as the 911 report stated. This inconsistency immediately became the starting point for a counter-investigation, not into the Finch family, but into the origin of the call that led to this tragic death. After realizing that the scene did not match the emergency call, Wichita police immediately determined that the incident was not only a fatal shooting, but also the serious result of a fake 911 call, what is known in the tech world as swatting. From that point on, the focus of the investigation shifted to tracing the source of the 911 call. Technology worked with the FBI to review telecommunications data. They quickly discovered that the call had been made from California using a public landline, but was linked to a suspicious IP address. Carrier and network activity data led them to an IP address in Los Angeles, where Tyler Barris lived. Barris, 25, had been arrested several times before for reporting false alarms, making bomb threats, and faking emergencies. He was also observed in several online forums where swatting was planned as a risky pastime. An arrest warrant was quickly issued. On December 30th, 2017, just 2 days after the incident, Los Angeles police and the FBI arrested Tyler Barris at his apartment. Barris was taken to federal headquarters and subjected to a barrage of questioning. During his initial interview, Barris appeared calm, even cold. He denied responsibility, saying, "I was just following someone else's orders," without revealing his identity. Federal investigators began digging into Barris's internet activity history. The evidence included text messages and online chats between Barris, Casey Viner, and Shane Gaskell, who had a direct conflict over the game Call of Duty. In one of the conversations, Gaskell gave Viner his old address and challenged him to swatting. Instead of ignoring the call, Viner gave Barris the address and asked him to make the call. The course of the investigation became clearer when Barris was confronted with irrefutable evidence. A 911 voice recording that matched his voice sample perfectly, along with IP history and access time links. Further questioning revealed a marked change in Barris's demeanor. From denial, he gradually admitted to the behavior, but tried to blame others, saying he did not think the consequences would be so severe. However, motive was no longer as important as the consequences. Federal investigators decided to expand the case into a multi-state investigation, since Barris's swatting behavior was not limited to Wichita. They discovered that he had made at least 30 fake calls to various states, from California to Ohio, over a 2-year period. This helped solidify the profile of a pattern of dangerous, intentional, and repeat offenses. In parallel, Casey Viner and Shane Gaskell, the two people who started the conflict, were also investigated. Viner initially tried to deny having direct contact with Barris, but phone records and text messages made it impossible for him to deny it. Gaskell, who provided the address, was also investigated for provocative behavior and failing to immediately notify the police when he learned that his old address was being targeted. The biggest psychological twist in the investigation came from an internal exchange between Viner and Gaskell, where both realized the serious consequences of their actions but chose to remain silent rather than warn those who might be affected. They even texted to say, "If anything happens, don't blame me." All of this information was included in the federal file. Evidence included recorded calls, body cam video at the scene, online chat histories, recordings of interrogations, and technical data from carriers and social media platforms. In March 2018, a formal indictment was filed in federal court. Tyler Barris was charged with 51 counts, including false reporting resulting in death, terroristic threats, wire fraud, and other swatting acts that did not result in death. Viner and Gaskell were charged with conspiracy and obstruction of a federal investigation. The completion of the case is considered an important legal lesson, marking the first time in the United States that someone has been sentenced to a lengthy sentence for swatting. Investigators are treating the case not as an individual incident, but as a prime example of the potential dangers of cyberspace behavior, leading to real-world consequences. The sentence that followed was intended not only to punish Barris personally, but also to send a clear message to the online community. Any seemingly fun behavior online can lead to tragedy and must be held accountable accordingly. The trial of Tyler Barris, which took place in early 2019 in the Federal District Court for the District of Kansas, attracted widespread media and public attention across the United States. It was one of the first swatting cases to be prosecuted at the federal level, marking a turning point in the legal approach to dangerous behavior arising from cyberspace. Barris, who was charged with more than 50 crimes, initially maintained his innocence. But after months of detention and faced with overwhelming evidence, he finally pleaded guilty in a plea deal with the prosecutor. During the sentencing hearing, Barris's defense attorney argued that his client had problems understanding consequences and was unable to properly assess the seriousness of his actions. However, the prosecution argued strongly that Barris had committed similar acts many times before. and that Andrew Finch's death was not an unintended consequence, but the inevitable result of a series of reckless and irresponsible acts. The federal judge sentenced Barris to 20 years in prison, the most severe sentence ever imposed for a swatting case at that time. In a statement to the court, Andrew Finch's relatives expressed their grief and wanted justice not only for their family, but also to prevent similar tragedies from happening in the future. A notable moment in the trial was when Barris spoke his final words before being sentenced. He apologized to the victim's family, but also said, "I didn't think it would go this far." The statement caused a sharp divide in public reaction. Some saw Barris as insincere and trying to avoid responsibility. Others saw it as a sign of belated remorse. The case has caused a stir on social media platforms, with many calling for stricter laws against swatting, while legal and technology experts debated the limits of liability between online behavior and real-world consequences. The case of Tyler Barris has become a prime example of the collision between the virtual and real worlds, where a click can have irreversible consequences. The death of Andrew Finch is not only a personal tragedy, but also a warning about the dangers of seemingly harmless behavior in cyberspace. An innocent man lost his life right in front of his own home, just because of a revenge prank between people who had never met in real life. The Finch family will forever bear the scars that cannot be healed, and the Wichita community must face the shock that has lasted from a seemingly normal winter night. From this incident, society is forced to ask profound questions about legal responsibility, ethics, and the limits of personal behavior in the digital age. Swatting is no longer a joke, but a crime that can have serious consequences, even take people's lives. After the case, U.S. law has taken steps to tighten and criminalize more severely the acts of reporting fake news. But more importantly, this is a lesson in humanity, in being careful in every action and word, especially on digital platforms, where the line between truth and falsehood is very fragile. Each individual and each community needs to be equipped with the right awareness of the potential consequences of seemingly small actions. And finally, the question is, if a lie can take a life, what do we need to do to ensure that justice, reason, and humanity always prevail over impulse, especially in today's globally connected era?